Dune Awakening gameplay was shown for the first time last night, and on initial impressions based on what they demonstrated and talked about, it has definitely piqued my interest, and today I'm going to tell you all about what's going on here to get you up to speed and see if it's a game worth keeping an eye on. PvE, PvP, guns, vehicles, explosions, base building, could be something cooking here. Of course, Dune 2 has just released in cinemas worldwide to glowing reviews, and it turns out that Timothée Chalamet from Call of Duty is actually a great actor. Who would have thought it? But right now, we're here to talk about Dune Awakening, so let's get stuck in. Now, this is primarily an open world survival game set in the Dune universe, and it's being created by the same developers that brought us the Conan Exiles MMO, Funcom. As you may expect, you start on Arrakis, which is a harsh desert planet located on the far edge of the old Imperium in the Canopus star system. The planet is made up mostly of a vast desert, and that's why it's informally called Dune. If the harsh desert doesn't kill you though, then the colossal sandworms will, and they're certainly a sight to behold. It's essentially a tension mechanic in the game. These things can easily take you out to make you really think about when and how you're moving throughout the desert. Unsurprisingly, surviving the planet itself is one of the major parts of the game. You're not only going to have to watch out for dangers like the sandworms, you shouldn't be able to miss them, but you're also going to have to fight dehydration. Arrakis has intense sunlight, and you're going to need to stay out of it using shadows during the day or by traveling at night. And to get water, you're going to have to visit the dew fields or eat plant fibers that contain traces of water needed for your survival. Apparently, if you're very desperate, you can even shoot enemies and take their blood and drink that as a source of hydration. Sounds lovely. Arrakis water is the life there, and you've got to learn how to extract water from bodies and use water discipline by maintaining your still suit. And then you've got to choose where to craft and deploy a shelter that can survive both the sun, enemy combatants, and the sandworms. And there is a shield wall on Arrakis, and that's considered a safe area, but you can build temporary outposts beyond the wall. And we saw some examples of the building in the trailer, and it looks vast. The system is based on the one from Conan Exiles, but expanded upon with an emphasis on player sharing blueprints. In fact, this is a big feature, and I think it's pretty cool. Once a player has built their base, they can save the entire thing as a blueprint and sell it to other players. Not only that, but the new system has a co-op building mode, meaning that if you're building with friends, you can place down elements as holograms, allowing teammates to fill them in. There are definitely some user-friendly improvements to the old system. Crafting, well, that's another element of the game, of course. You're going to be able to craft weapons, armor, vehicles, attachments, mods, and more. In fact, building tech is going to be super important here, because as you advance your technology and your base, you're going to be able to advance your spice harvesting operation, which in turn will grant you wealth and power. This means you should expect to be collecting stone and various metals, as well as eventually forging steel. All of these will allow you to build bigger machines. What is spice though? Well, in the lore of Dune, without getting too spoilery, it's a mystery substance or a drug that is connected to the huge sandworms in some way. It's called melons and known locally as spice. This isn't just any drug though. In fact, it's the most essential and valuable commodity in the universe because it makes safe travel and accurate interstellar travel possible. You'll be searching the desert for massive spice blows, and then you can harvest them. After that, you can either sell the spice on the exchange or consume it to expand your potential at the cost of addiction. Just so you know, while the drug can be used for interstellar travel, it is very addictive when consumed, and it will give you a longer lifespan, greater vitality, heightened awareness, among other things in certain people, but withdrawal can be fatal. Now, you can expect to come across some familiar faces in the game if you've been watching the movies or perhaps read the books. You'll meet characters from both as you progress your story and try to uncover the mystery that lies just beneath the surface of the sands. Speaking of which, you're going to encounter ancient underground ecology labs, as well as deep canyons and of course boundless rolling dunes. The desert is also ever changing, and that's a big part of the game. Cataclysmic Coriolis storms regularly alter the landscape, and this can uncover new valuable resources as well as sweeping away player built outposts. We'll get onto that in a bit. It's not all vast nothingness though. There are bustling villages to explore, and this is an open world game, remember, so there's going to be plenty of interesting and unique locations to discover. So let's talk combat, the exciting stuff. When you build your identity, you're able to not only use the deep character creation tool to make your playable avatar, but you'll also be able to choose skills and abilities taught by specialists in the game, such as Mentats and Bene Gesserits. And while you'll be able to choose specific certain abilities when you choose your character, you won't be locked into playing a certain class, and you can mix and match abilities from different schools depending on your playstyle. Then when you're in the world, you'll be able to find certain trainers to teach you new abilities and skills. The developers said that the game wants you to be able to use something called combined arms, meaning you're able to utilize everything at your disposal from Holtzman gadgets to long-range firearms. The game will also include sci-fi weaponry such as lasguns and shields. As well as that, melee combat, of course, that will be very prominent here, and you'll be able to use other abilities taught by the great schools of the Imperium. The developers call the combat sandbox combat because they want players to have freedom to craft their own way to play. Beyond that, you're also able to combine infantry, ground and flying vehicles. You're going to get access to sandbikes too. These will be very helpful when crossing big areas of the desert, avoiding the sandworms. But the one that you really want to know about is the ornithopter, and yes, you'll be able to fly one. How you choose to take on combat with any of these options, that's up to you. There's going to be a faction system as well. You'll become known by what you wear and what you do in the game. In fact, you'll want to create a guild and grow it into a house minor by allying yourself with one of the other great houses. Perhaps you will choose House Atreides or maybe House Harkonnen. The game wants or aims to bring players into the political fight on Arrakis by first starting them off as a survivor in the desert, but then throughout the game progressing them into a high-ranking baron, if that's what you want to be. Controlling the spice and building your empire is the way to ultimate power. And it looks like you're going to need all of that power that you built up when it comes to the late game, which will see you travel deep into the desert to the player versus player area. Every week a huge storm will change certain areas on the map, which in turn will uncover new elements such as ruins, buildings, crashed ships, and of course bury other ones. It's a harsh environment. And this area will have schematics, items for crafting, and of course spice, but you'll have to beat other players to these things or fight them for them. At the end of the trailer, they show all sorts of vehicles and infantry getting into a big scrap in the middle of the desert. I'm imagining they're fighting over some massive resource that's just been uncovered or dropped in there. That could be pretty exciting and interesting to take part in. Bit of a Dark Zone vibe going on there perhaps. Also flamethrowers and tanks. Count me in. Wrapping things up, while everything about the game sounds promising so far, I'm glad to hear that the studio isn't in a rush to release it. They've had plenty of betas. And creative director Joel Bilos said that the team are planning to run more betas for the game for several months, and they plan on inviting more people over time, but he did say that they have no intentions of rushing the game out there, and it will take as long as it takes before it's in its 1.0 release. Visually, I think the game looks nice, the environments in particular, and you guessed it, yes, it's running on Unreal Engine 5.2 to be exact at the moment. So they've got some cool stuff with Lumen and the base building for accurate lighting, and Nanite 2, the level of detail stuff. So they've got some really awesome looking vistas and rock formations in the distance and up close. The fidelity scales and the performance is supposed to hold up too. As of right now, no release window of course, as we just talked about, and the game will come out on PlayStation 5, PC and Xbox Series X and S. But definitely one to look out for if you're into this kind of survival game, or maybe you're just a big fan of the Dune universe in general. It appears that with Dune Awakening, they're crafting a game that is taking a lot of the source material, implanting that into the gameplay, and visually, aesthetically, very similar to the new Dune movies. With that said, that's all for today, folks. Do let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.